What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today I wanted to talk to you about going from a 1000cc bike to a 300cc bike. So years ago, most of you that have been watching my channel for quite a while now, you know that I used to have a 2012 Kawasaki Ninja 1000, and a lot of people will argue that yeah, it's not a ZX10, but it's definitely still a powerful bike. I mean, it'd do in the 160s no problem. My GSX-R750 definitely goes faster than that bike, top speed. Torque wise, it's hard to say. I think they're probably pretty close as far as like 0 to 60 times. But I didn't want to title this bike going from a 750 to a 300cc because that's not quite as clickbaity as going from a 1000cc to a 300cc, which is, you know, technically speaking, I did have a 1000cc and now I'm down to a 300cc. Although I do have my GSX-R750, obviously. I don't think that bike's ever gonna leave me. We have like a spiritual connection. So yeah, out here in beautiful Tarpon Springs, Florida today, just kind of exploring the area, and man, it really is beautiful out here. So thought it'd be a good time going slow. Thought it'd be a good time to go ahead and talk about going from a big bike to a small bike. So a lot of people riding the streets don't understand that you'll never push a bike, even like a Super Sport 600, you'll never push a bike like that to its full potential on the street. Like, it's just not going to happen. And if you try to do it, it's probably not going to end well for you. This guy's making me a little bit jealous. He's out here doing a little kayak fishing. Heather and I actually went fishing yesterday, and she caught her first snook, which is pretty exciting. Although it did come off, but yes, she did catch her first snook. And then we caught some more redfish and took them home and cooked them up. But anyways, back to the point of the video, going from a big bike to a small bike. A lot of people don't understand that you'll never ride a bike like even a CBR 600 or a GSX-R 600. You'll never ride a bike like that to its full potential, where you can on a smaller bike like this. Now, I'm not saying I can ride this bike to its full potential because I'm not like a pro rider or anything like that. I can ride, I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty good rider, but I'm definitely like, I'm very humble in the fact that I will not sit here and tell you that I can ride this bike to its full potential. I don't even know if I can ride this bike to 80% of its full potential, but regardless, this bike is probably one of the most fun bikes that I've ever owned as far as riding on the streets. Now, would I want to take this bike to a big bike track like Road Atlanta or something like that? Probably not. Jennings, I would definitely take it to Jennings. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. I've had things going on with my GSX-R750 that, you know, like the rebuild and the new fairings, and I wanted to get that bike out on the track, and I just haven't had a chance to take this bike out with me. So I will eventually take this bike out to Jennings probably at some point. But this bike shines more so on like a go-kart track, like Bushnell or something like that, which is like Central Florida. A lot of pro riders come here to Bushnell to actually practice, and most of them ride supermotos like 300s and 400s. Some of them even ride the O'Valleys, which are, I think the O'Valleys are like 175s or 150s, something like that. I'm not like 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. But yeah, going from a big bike to a small bike is very fun in the aspect that you can do things with these bikes that you really can't do with big bikes. Like, I can just go into a parking lot and do wheelies at really slow speeds. Oh, it's an osprey. This is my favorite bird, by the way. Fun little fact. They're so cool. Alright, back on subject again. So yeah, like I said, a bike like this is fun for riding like this, just cruising around, riding down to the beach, things like that. A bike like this is a real, just a lot of fun, and it's very cheap to ride. I mean, this bike was like $6,500 out the door. I mean, how much can you get for $6,500 when you're talking a 1000cc sport bike? Now, things like, you might get like 2003, 2004 GSX-R 1000. You might be able to find that for this price range, but it might have 30-40,000 miles on it. And I'm not saying that like that's the end of that bike's life, but you don't know how it's been ridden in those 30-40,000 miles. Now, people that watch my videos and see how my GSX-R 750 was ridden, and it's been wrecked, and you know, it's been to plenty of track days, and yeah, it definitely hasn't been babied, but I trusted that bike will last me, you know, another 10 years if I wanted to. Who knows if I'll ever keep it that long. I have such a hard time getting rid of things that I really enjoy, like the GSX-R 750, and now this bike. Like I've toyed with the idea of selling this bike as well, but I don't know. I'm just having a lot of fun on it, and the more I actually ride it and the more time I put on it, seat time on it, the more I actually realize how much fun this little bike is, and just like how nimble and light it is, and just a fun little bike to ride. And the cool thing about having like a Supermoto or you know, a bike like that is that you can take this bike off-road, you can take it over jumps and things like that, and you don't have to worry too much about your suspension and your fork seals blowing and things like that. Where if you get a bike like a GSX-R 750 or a GSX-R 1000 or an R1M or something like that, it's not really a very good bike for one to learn on, and it's definitely not a good bike to I'm trying to let like everybody go. Like when I'm on this bike, I'm just not in a hurry. I'm just kind of cruising, and like every time I come to a stoplight or stop sign to say like a four-way stop, I just let everyone else go ahead of me, just because I'm just cruising and I'm not really in a hurry. So yeah, that's the main thing to me riding a small bike, is that it's just so easy. Like if I drop this bike, if I low side this bike at 15-20 miles an hour, it's not going to upset me. I've already done it at the track, and it's just not going to upset me. Now, if I low side my GSX-R 750 in, say, third gear, I'm doing, you know, 90 plus miles an hour, and that bike is not going to brush off quite as easily as this bike. Now, this bike, like I said, it's a Supermoto. It's basically a dirt bike that's made into a street bike tires, street bike rims, but you know, it's just, this bike's a lot more forgiving too. So for people out there that are looking to get their first bike, don't get fooled and tricked into the whole, oh, you need a big bike kind of deal. Like, I'm telling you, like, learn things on a small bike and you will learn things and pick things up so much faster. You would be amazed what a bike like this can do in the hands of the right rider. And like I said, I'm not saying that like I can ride this bike to its full potential, yada yada, but I feel like if I were to take this bike to just say Bushnell, for instance, and then I take some random highway 1000 rider that just does highway pulls all day long, and put him and I on Bushnell track. Okay, not even this bike, not even my 300. Let's talk about Heather's, my wife's Z125. If I put her on the Z125 and I put some highway blaster on a 1000 on Bushnell track together, she would lap them like 100%. And I'm sure I'm guarantee you there's somebody watching this video right now, and they're just so angry at the fact that I just said that, but it's absolutely true. I guarantee you, go to any small bike track or Jennings, take Jennings for instance, take the right rider on a Ninja 300 or a Ninja 400 and put them up against some street squid on a 1000 that just blasts on the highway, that just does that on the highway all day long, right? You put them up against somebody, even on a big bike track, and you put them up against somebody who is just, say, not even like a professional, but just somebody who just say for instance like races like Junior Cup or something like that, and put them up against somebody who just blasts on the highway every night, and I guarantee you they're gonna get gapped by a 300 or 400. And that's the funny thing, like once you ride track, you will not you will never look at bikes the same again, because the potential of, say, a Ninja 300 or a Ninja 400 is absolutely astronomical compared to what most people think it is. But yeah, guys, I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time, because like I said, I did go from a 1000cc at one point down to a 300cc. Like I said, I still do have my 750. Obviously, like, that's the thing, is like, for me, having both spectrums of bikes, I can appreciate a small bike for what it is, and I can appreciate a bigger, faster bike for what it is. Now, my GSXR 750 is not the fastest bike out there, obviously, but the thing will do 100 miles an hour in second gear. I mean, I think it hits like 90 in first gear, which is ridiculous, okay? This bike tops out at like, I think I topped it out at like 98 miles an hour, which is definitely not fast by any means. But the thing is like, this bike can compare and compete with most cars on the road, okay? There's definitely some cars out there that are gonna be way faster than this bike, but for the most part, this bike is gonna keep up with any and every vehicle on the road, and I never have to wonder about this bike not having enough power to ride on the street. I feel like I can take this bike on the same roads that I take my 750 on, and I have a much higher chance of breaking the law on my 750 than I do on this bike. You know, low speed things like, you know, 40, 50, 60 mile an hour corners, I'm probably taking them the exact same speed that I do on this bike as I do on my 750. But when you get into like high speed sweepers where you're doing, you know, 90 plus miles an hour sometimes, especially on the track, and this bike definitely isn't going to do that. Alright guys, so my main point here is that for someone like me who's been riding for, you know, 15, 16 years, even people that have been riding for less time, if you've been able to ride so many different bikes, like I've been able to ride, I don't know, probably close to 50 different bikes in my riding career, I guess you could say. So I've probably ridden everything from like a ZX14 down to like a Z125, you know. So I've ridden everything in between, and you know, I've had a lot of fun, a lot of fun on big bikes, GSXR 1000, the CBR 1000. You know, some of those bikes are just so much power. It's like, to see people out commuting on them is, I don't know, it kind of like, to me, it just looks so boring. A little mischief there. But to me, it just looks so boring, where if I see somebody on, like, say, a Z125 or a Grom or, you know, a Ninja 400 or something like that, I see them ripping around on the streets, and I'm just like, yeah, man, that looks pretty fun. But when I see people stuck in traffic on these big bikes that'll do 100 plus miles an hour in first gear, and they're just sitting there putting around in traffic in first gear, just feathering the clutch the entire time. Because as you've seen, like, even in slow traffic on this bike, I'm sitting here having to feather the clutch and like downshift and upshift and downshift and upshift. But on a big bike, just imagine how much worse that's going to be. And I'm not saying that big bikes don't have their place. I'm just saying that small bikes definitely do have their place. And I feel like if you can have a small bike and a big bike at the same time, that's when you can truly appreciate what each bike has to offer. So, like, for instance, Heather and I, my wife, she has a GSXR 750, I have a GSXR 750, and then we both have smaller bikes. We have, I have my KLX300, and then she has a Z125, and she just absolutely loves that bike. I tease her all the time, telling her, like, yeah, we need to sell that thing. It's just like, it's too slow, or yada, just like joking around with her. But she just absolutely loves that bike. And I've even, like, you know, thrown it out there that maybe she should get rid of that bike and buy a KLX300 as well. So then we both have Supermotos. But I honestly I feel like she loves that bike so much that she's not willing to give it up. And I totally get it, because when you find a bike that's fun and is enjoyable and it checks all the boxes of what you want, especially in a second bike, like I said, starting on something like this or a Z125 is perfect honestly. Like, you're gonna learn so much about riding. You're gonna learn the ups and downs of riding. You're gonna learn the little things that you really can't learn in a book. You have to learn them on the street or on the track. You're gonna learn things you're gonna learn things riding that you will never learn in a book. It's all about experience. The more you ride, the more experience you get, and the better rider you become, and the more you can really just kind of figure out what kind of bike you want. Now, if I live somewhere like, I don't know, Colorado or something like that, I absolutely wouldn't mind just having a KLX300 Supermoto or a DOZ400 or something like that, something smaller, but can still handle the highways. But being that I live in Florida and we do have a lot of, oh god, these roads are so bumpy. We do have a lot of you know, long straights. We have a lot of long you know, our twisties we consider in Florida are like, it's like the opposite of the tail of the dragon. All right, it's like 11 curves in 318 miles. No, it's not that bad, but it's definitely not like something you want to go putt around on a smaller bike like this. You know, maybe a Ninja 400 is probably the smallest I would want to have out there. But this bike checks all my boxes for commuting and just running, you know, running down the street for something, you know, running to the gas station or the grocery store, or going to get froyo with my wife, you know, things like that. This bike is definitely like the ticket for me. And the thing is like, when I was a kid, I used to always watch these movies, you know, like back in like the 90s, the mid 90s, late 90s. I used to watch a lot of movies when I was a kid, and there was this one movie, it was called Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson. The little kids are like smiling. There was this one movie called Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson, and there was this one scene where he was on, I want to say it was a Honda, but it was like an enduro Honda, like a, I don't know what even those bikes are, those 650s or whatever they were back then. But there's this scene where Mel Gibson like gets on this like enduro bike, and he's riding like through these shops, and he breaks out the window, and then like he jumps down these stairs. And like, I always used to watch that movie and be like, god, I want one of those bikes so bad, because it looked like a dirt bike. And I rode dirt bikes when I was younger. I was just never like consistent with them. I just kind of rode them from time to time because my grandparents had them. But yeah, it was just this one scene, and it always used to make me want to have a dual sport. And about 10 years ago, I did have a dual sport. I had a KLX300, or I'm sorry, a KLR650 about 10 years ago, and I had that bike for probably about a year or so. It was a lot of fun, but it was very tall, and it was very just very uncomfortable compared to this bike. This bike's just so small and just like nimble. It's like a little toy almost. Alright guys, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna stop talking your ear off. If you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully some of you out there that ride big bikes will give small bikes a chance and just realize how much fun they really are. And just, you know, they have so much to offer in such a small package and a small price point, which is definitely a good thing. So, alright guys, peace, ride safe, and we'll see you in the next video.